So Apple just released its Q1 2026 earnings, and wow, the numbers are just staggering. But what's really interesting here is that if you look past those big, flashy headlines, this report gives us an incredible glimpse into what the company is planning for its future. So what's the real story behind the numbers? Let's get into it. Okay, first things first. Just look at this number, $143.8 billion. That's what Apple pulled in a single quarter. It's not just a big number, you guys. It's a new record that totally blew past what anyone was expecting, and it really sets the scene for everything else we're going to talk about.
All right, so to really get a handle on how Apple did this, and more importantly, where they're going next, we're going to break this whole thing down. We'll start with the crazy numbers, then dive into the iPhone's dominance, Apple's massive new bet on AI, their big push into subscriptions, some new challenges that are popping up, and finally, what does it all mean for the road ahead?
So let's kick things off with just how huge this quarter really was. Because that big revenue number we just saw, that was really just the start of it.
This is where you see Apple didn't just meet expectations. They absolutely shattered them. Revenue is way up, so were earnings. But the real story here, the one that had everyone talking, was China. Wall Street was expecting just under $22 billion, and Apple came in with over $25 billion. That's a 38% jump year over year, which is a massive signal that they're bouncing back in a super important market. I mean, Tim Cook himself said it best. He didn't mince words. He just called it a quarter for the record books. And that really says it all. But what was the engine that was driving all of this success? To really understand Apple's quarter, you have to talk about the iPhone. It didn't just have a good run, it had a truly historic one. $85.3 billion. That's just from the iPhone. Just think about that for a second. That's up 23% from last year, and it's an all-time record for iPhone sales. The iPhone, as a standalone business, is bigger than most entire tech companies. It's just wild. And this chart just makes it so clear. We're talking almost 60% of their entire business from just one product. This is why the iPhone isn't just a phone. It's the financial fortress that gives Apple the money to do everything else, including making its next big strategic move. So, what do you do with all that iPhone money? Well, if you're Apple, you use it to fund your next big bet. And that bet, which many people say is long overdue, is on artificial intelligence. So let's get on the same page real quick. What is Apple Intelligence anyway? Well, you can think of it as Apple's whole approach to AI. They're focused on making it personal, keeping it private by running it on your device when they can, and weaving it right into the fabric of their operating systems. So how are they going to do it? Well, Apple's game plan here is kind of two-sided. On the one hand, they're building their own AI models in-house. But, and this is the big news, they're also teaming up with Google to use their powerful Gemini AI. This is really all about one thing, speed. It helps Apple get up to speed in the AI race, and fast. So what does this partnership actually mean for you and me? Well, the number one thing everyone's talking about, confirmed by Tim Cook, is a more personalized Siri coming this year. I think we can all agree that's an upgrade we've been waiting on for a long time. It also lets Apple roll out new AI features way faster and use Gemini for complex stuff, like taking actions across different apps. Okay, so AI is one massive piece of the puzzle. The other one, services. Apple is dead set on building that reliable, recurring revenue that isn't just tied to you buying a new phone every few years. And their brand new Creator Studio is the perfect example of this strategy in action. So what's the deal with this Creator Studio? Well, think of it as a new subscription bundle aimed right at creative folks. It packages up their pro apps like Final Cut for video and Logic Pro for music. But the real carrot here is the exclusive AI features you only get as a subscriber. Things like auto-transcription and automatic beat detection. Plus, they're throwing in a stock library, all for about $13 a month. But here's where it gets interesting. The reviews are kind of all over the place, and it really depends on who you are. If you're new to this stuff, reviewers are calling it a bargain, especially next to Adobe. But if you're a loyal customer who already shelled out hundreds of dollars for these apps, the value just isn't there. The new features feel a bit modest, and you don't get any kind of discount. It really highlights the tricky tightrope Apple has to walk as it pushes more into subscriptions. Okay, so despite all this record-breaking news, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for Apple. The company is actually facing some pretty serious headwinds that could cause some real problems down the line. Challenge number one is regulation. Over in Europe, Apple has been labeled a DMA gatekeeper. So what on earth does that mean? Well, basically, the European Commission is saying that Apple is so big and powerful that they have to play by a much stricter set of rules to keep things fair for everyone else. And that puts a giant regulatory microscope over the very core of their business, the App Store, iOS, even iPadOS. And the second big headache? It's the supply chain. And ironically, the problem is being caused by the very AI boom Apple is trying to get in on. As Business Insider points out here, the huge demand for AI is making memory prices just skyrocket. And memory is a critical component in every single device Apple makes. Tim Cook himself has even said he expects those prices to just keep climbing. All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got a record-smashing quarter, a major strategic shift, and some pretty serious new challenges. So what does the road ahead actually look like for Apple? So here's the bottom line. Apple is an absolute financial juggernaut. It's using the unstoppable force of the iPhone to pivot and build its future around AI and services. But at the exact same time, it's walking into a world with way more regulatory pressure and supply chain costs that are being directly driven by that new strategy. And all of this leads us to the one big question we have to ask. For years, the iPhone has been Apple's impenetrable fortress. But now, with this new focus on AI and services, are they successfully building the fortress that will protect them for the next decade? Or are these new challenges a sign that the walls are finally about to face their toughest test yet?